A judge is temporarily blocking the Trump administration from freezing $10 billion in federal funding meant to help low-income families in Colorado and 4 other Democrat-led states. The Trump team says it's due to fraud, but offered no evidence, as the administration openly retaliates these days against blue states. The impacted program subsidized child care for children from low-income families and provides financial assistance and job training. The states said that this sudden freeze created operational chaos. They argued in a lawsuit that the government did not have a legal reason to suddenly hold back the funding. So this pause is in place until a judge hears arguments. I need to fill my gas tank, but I waited to learn what our team could figure out today about a major fuel mix-up that is causing problems for drivers around the metro area. More than 200 people have now complained to the state about getting bad gas at some King Soopers, Costco, and Murphy Express stations. Fuel that made their cars sputter and shut down. This appears to trace back to the HF Sinclair terminal in Henderson, where tankers are loaded to deliver gas to stations around the state. From 2 p.m. Wednesday to 6 a.m. Thursday, diesel was mistakenly loaded into tankers that were supposed to be dropping off unleaded gas. 24 hours after 9 News first confirmed this problem, Sinclair has yet to provide a complete list of impacted gas stations with bad fuel. The only list we've received is from King Soopers, which confirms 13 affected stations in the Denver metro area. A fuel mix-up on this scale is not something that we see often. Our Spencer Soischer looks at how drivers with wrecked engines may be made whole and who is typically responsible for the repair payments.
There are a lot of people struggling with bad gas today, but how many of them already have it in their car system? That appears to be a fluid situation.
Complaints started coming into the division yesterday, and we've received over 200 complaints.
Most of our consumer complaints have been immediate engine failure problems that are very obvious.
The state says the wrong fuel came from HF Sinclair in Henderson. We're unaware of a fuel contamination issue this large in Colorado, at least in recent memory. But in other states with similar fuel mix-ups, knowing who was at fault played a key role for the consumer in getting money to fix their car.
This morning, we know that thousands of drivers have already been affected by tainted gas.
The largest example came in 2012, when around 600 gas stations in the Midwest gave out contaminated fuel. That ended with BP sending reimbursement checks to nearly 8,000 people for refunds and repairs. There was also a class action lawsuit that paid everyone with a receipt $50. In Tampa in 2023, Citgo set up a claims process to pay for repairs for cars damaged by gas they distributed. Citgo in the state of Florida said they reached out to all affected customers who filed a claim. And about a month ago in Connecticut, 25 cars were damaged when a delivery company mistakenly put diesel in the wrong pumps. Connecticut's Consumer Protection Agency said that delivery company took care of the complaints. But that's the difference here. Sinclair is making their bad gas other people's problem. Sinclair said in a statement this afternoon that people who bought their gas should get in touch with the gas stations where they bought the fuel. The state told us this afternoon that it does not plan to fine Sinclair unless it determines that its actions were either negligent, that they made intentional decisions to cause this, or if they aren't satisfied with the company's response to fixing these issues, which the state told us, Kyle, they think is unlikely.
The problem is we don't have an idea of the scope of the issue, right? So then how do you determine where we go in these next steps? This entire thing has seemed very, very chaotic.
Well, and if they would just tell people, all right, these are the stations that are affected, or this is where we dropped it off, I'm sure it would make things a lot easier for those gas stations that people are about to start contacting.
Right, because I'm sure that there are affected gas stations that belong to the companies involved that are clean.
Sure.
It'd be good to know. Spencer Soischer, thank you. Seconds before an ICE officer shot and killed a Colorado native in Minneapolis this week, that woman had a friendly exchange with the agent, smiling and telling him she wasn't mad at him. This is seemingly at odds with the Trump administration's claim that she was a domestic terrorist, a deranged leftist, who seconds later tried to ram the agent with her vehicle. Renee Good's final moments were captured in a video obtained by NBC News that appears to have been recorded by the officer who shot her.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
That officer circles Good's SUV, passing by her wife, who appeared to be recording the officer. Witnesses told NBC News that Good was getting conflicting directions from officers to either pull away or to get out of her vehicle. As Good pulls forward, the officer opens fire. Another video angle shows that the officer shot into the SUV from both the front and the side. The Trump administration immediately justified Good's killing and announced that the agent has complete immunity for his actions. State and local leaders dispute that and want an investigation. Douglas County's Republican leaders are postponing next week's vote on their proposal to crack down on shoplifting by punishing the victims of shoplifting, businesses, fines for businesses that don't track and report every shoplifting incident. And now, District Attorney George Brockler, the most prominent Republican voice on criminal justice in Colorado, says he does not support this proposed ordinance. In fact, Brockler wants us at 9 News to make a correction for saying that he supports the plan. It sure seemed like DA Brockler was shoulder to shoulder with GOP commissioners on the retail theft ordinance when they were standing shoulder to shoulder last month to unveil the retail theft ordinance. If District Attorney George Brockler had told DOUGCO commissioners that he did not support the retail theft ordinance that they were announcing together, he chose to keep that a secret from the public.
If you come down here to steal from us, plan on staying.
Colorado's most outspoken prosecutor spoke more than twice as long as anyone else at that county news conference, but chose not to mention what he now claims, that he does not support the proposed ordinance being unveiled that day. The idea of punishing businesses if they don't track and report every shoplifter.
There has been a weakening of our laws when it comes to protecting the property rights of others.
In the months since, public concern and opposition has grown, from the business community to the pages of Colorado's conservative newspaper. Now, the vote on the ordinance is being postponed by commissioners, and DA Brockler wants the public to know he doesn't support the plan. He has no position on it, according to a spokesperson. District Attorney Brockler called our reporting misleading, and his spokesperson said the proposed ordinance, quote, has nothing to do with our office. Douglas County's website on the ordinance says, quote, violations may be prosecuted by the district attorney or county attorney. In declining the request for a correction from DA Brockler's office, we asked them whether Brockler's position on this ordinance has changed at some point and why. They did not respond. Douglas County says the vote on that ordinance is postponed to incorporate feedback. So we would all like to know what caused that massive fire in Denver last week, and we might be waiting a while. Similar fires in our area have gone unsolved for years. Our Mark Salinger has that.
From across the street, it looks like a pile of trash. But what's left of this apartment building on Leedsdale will likely be the focus of a lot of investigators for a long time.
We are looking at everything right now.
Denver Fire now has the help of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms National Response Team. It's the first time they've ever been called in for a fire in Denver. But finding clues in the middle of all this isn't easy.
This is a very large footprint, lots of video to look at, lots of people to interview, lots of forensic stuff to look at.
Yeah, when it's so big and so devastating, it makes it very difficult.
Randolph Harris has investigated more than 3,000 fires over more than 3 decades. He knows in some cases, a cause is never determined.
If the whole structure burns and you just have a black hole in the foundation, it's almost impossible to figure out because all the evidence is burned away.
In December of 2023, a massive 5-alarm fire tore through an apartment building under construction in Aurora at the corner of Colfax and Peoria. It was one of the costliest and largest fires Aurora has ever seen. More than 2 years later, no cause has been determined and the investigation remains open. In March of 2018, a fire at an apartment complex under construction in Uptown killed 2 people. No cause was released publicly, and it remains undetermined.
If the first floor completely burns away and the roof burns and collapses on top of it and everything burns into the foundation, everything's gone. You can't prove it.
Cadaver dogs and dogs that sniff fire accelerants have already combed the scene at last week's fire. Both found nothing so far.
The ATF's National Response Team was most recently called to Colorado in Nederland to help with a massive fire at a shopping center there just a couple of months ago. The cause of that one still remains under investigation as well. But with a fire like this in an empty building under construction, there are only so many potential causes, experts say, that could potentially help experts try and narrow down at least where to look.
I was curious, Mark, whether they automatically investigate the owner of a property like this at the same time that they look at the scene.
So the ATF also has forensics experts as well, which we imagine include financial forensics as well. So there are a lot of reasons that people can start a fire. Of course, one of them that we've seen historically is fraud. Potentially. Of course, we have no idea if that has anything to do with this potential fire here, but certainly not just the physical evidence that they're looking at, but also things like financial fraud, stuff like that they're also going to be looking at as well.
Mark Salinger, thank you. That 5-alarm fire last Friday and the exceptional work of firefighters is just a reminder of what firefighters across this state, paid and volunteer, do daily to protect lives and property. So this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is an opportunity for us to show our appreciation. Let's buy some crucial equipment that Denver firefighters need, and let's also help firefighters around Colorado who get injured on the job. Our donations this week will be split evenly between two nonprofits that serve Colorado's firefighters. The Denver Fire Department Foundation will use the proceeds to buy new thermal imaging cameras. New ones are not in the city's budget currently. DFD's using some older cameras that are not as effective for search and rescue. In fact, they used them in last week's 5-alarm fire. Newer thermal imaging cameras have better resolution for low visibility smoky environments. The other half of our donations will go to the Colorado Professional Firefighters Foundation. That is an all-volunteer nonprofit that provides aid and financial support to firefighters and their families in the case of an injury, a line of duty death, or service-connected illness like cancer. Full disclosure, you may know of them because my colleague Corey Rose is a longtime supporter. She sits on that nonprofit's board, but just heads up, I alone selected the Colorado Professional Firefighters Foundation as one of this week's recipients. All the donations we raise will be split 50-50 without overhead costs, thanks to the generous support of the Denver Foundation. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. I'll send you that link to join me and a bunch of others in donating. And I should say 7,000 of you have now signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You become a recurring giver. You put in your info one time, and each month your chosen donation is automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. In November, that started these campaigns with an astonishing $50,000 per week.
That's not splitting the vote. That's not being a spoiler. That's democracy.
A Republican candidate for governor leaves his party to run unaffiliated. I'll ask Greg Lopez why a state that isn't electing any conservative candidates in statewide races needs two of them in the race for governor. Next. Colorado finally got some snow. Not much around Denver, but any date to the snow prom is a good date to the snow prom when you don't have a date to the snow prom. It made the drive to work a bit of a slip and slide this morning. Neighborhoods around the metro area got 1 to 5 inches of snow, more in the western suburbs. But honestly, been so warm, it's already starting to melt away on us. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, you were telling me not all snowfalls are equal in terms of like the useful moisture to us.
Exactly right, Kyle. And the amount of water within this storm was really beneficial for us. And one common thing I hear in comments around the grocery store even is how dry it's been lately. You want the reality and you want the good news? It has not been that dry lately. Since December the 1st in Denver, we're slightly above average. So point being, having long 7 to 10 day stretches of dry weather, that's actually fairly common this time of year. Tonight, watch out for black ice, 15 degrees. It's going to be on the cold side, obviously, tonight. But that area low pressure and the colder air associated with it moves off to our east. High pressure replaces it. And that'll keep us dry and mild into next week. So all that rain and snow that we picked up yesterday and last night, that'll help us over the next few days as it's going to be on the dry side and on the warm side well into next week.
Tonight's next conversation is with a candidate for governor hoping third time is the charm. But Greg Lopez is leaving the Republican Party, where he unsuccessfully sought the GOP nomination for governor twice and was a short-term placeholder in Congress. He instead is running as an unaffiliated candidate for governor. You didn't switch parties because you thought you were going to lose the Republican primary for the third time, did you?
Oh, no. Look, you know what? I'm applying for a job. Every candidate is applying for a job. And for the last 2 times, I've submitted my resume to a political process called the primary. This time I decided that I was going to take my resume directly to the people and let the people decide whether my experience, my leadership skills, is what Colorado needs right now. That's what I'm doing.
Have you changed any of your positions or your values as you've left the Republican Party?
No, look, my values when I was mayor and when I was in Congress was always to put people first. This is truly about people over politics.
I have seen polling that suggests that Coloradans are open to the idea of voting for an unaffiliated candidate, at least in theory, right? Yes. It's different when it's an actual person, right? But in theory, they seem open to it. Why do you think that the unaffiliated candidate that they're open to voting for is somebody who's staunchly conservative as opposed to somebody who is more middle of the road?
Because they're looking for a problem solver. They're looking for someone that can actually look at the problem and solve it. Bring ideas to the table.
Trump has promised retaliation against Colorado, and he's delivering, right? So most recently, he vetoed the Clean Drinking Water Project. It was in the district that you represented in Congress briefly. He froze funding for low-income families, including child care funding, TANF. He denied disaster aid to Colorado for wildfires and floods. He said he's going to dismantle the NCAR Science Lab in Boulder. Just to be clear, is there any action he's taken toward Colorado that you think is inappropriate, that you know of?
Well, remember, anything that harms people, okay, hurts the poor.
I'm asking you for a direct answer. Is there anything that President Trump has done to Colorado that you think is inappropriate?
If he's withholding funds out of spite, then yes, that's inappropriate.
Do you believe he's withholding funds out of spite?
No, I don't.
More of my 30-minute conversation with Greg Lopez coming up next on Monday. You can see the full unedited discussion right now on 9news.com and the Next YouTube channel.
My good news is she is 2 years old, and when we get back, we're going to send her off to get pregnant.
If you were not looking at your TV screen, that probably sounded shocking, but we're talking about cows and talking about the good news in the lives of our neighbors next. Tonight, two iconic Colorado traditions combined: the 120th year of the National Western Stock Show and the 9th year of us asking Coloradans about the good news in their lives on Next every Friday.
This is our world show. We have, I think, about 420 entries here. One thing that is unique about our breed is that they get to start showing at 3 years old. So we do get to have the Rileys, the younger kids, in there with the smaller cattle.
This one's Nola, and this one's Brenda. My good news is she is 2 years old, and when we get back, we're going to send her off to get pregnant. My good news is that I brought really good calves. My good news is that we're inside this year and not outside where it's snowing. I lost 8 teeth, and they always get wiggly wobbly for some reason. My good news is that I made 2 best friends in my first year. One is over there with the glasses, and one is over there. My good news is I won junior showmanship at the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Congress. My good news is I know that after I'm done with all stock show, then I know after school I can go home and play Fortnite with my friends. We just had a baby cow.
That last kid. My good news about stock show is when I get to leave and go play a video game. Nah, stock show's amazing. Back with your feedback next. Feedback from DJ, who says, way to go, Kyle, with the perky and persistent reporter instincts when interviewing Greg Lopez. I don't think I have ever been called perky before, DJ. But DJ continues, start mentoring young journalists on how to do it. Are you kidding me? I'm taking notes on the rest of the team. You ever see Mark Salinger go after the mayor on Denver's homeless funding? Watch Spencer Soisher chop it up over those false claims about flock surveillance cameras? You watch Angeline McCall's dogged questioning for years about immigration issues? No. Now we are in good shape. We are in very good hands when I'm gone. Not that I want to be gone. I enjoy employment. I'll see you next time.